The mist appears covering Paris. Those who inhale it all died. They have to use oxygen tanks to live and find a way out of it. Where does this fog come from? Let's watch the movie. Mathieu wakes up in a plane currently in the process of landing in France. After a quick drive through the highway, he arrives at his apartment. After taking a box out of his bag, he leaves his apartment and crosses the street to enter a different building as one of the neighbors, Mr. Belkacem, who is also making his way inside. Mathieu helps him with his oxygen tank, then quickly goes upstairs and knocks on his wife Anna's door. She welcomes him with a kiss and tells him she's in the middle of teaching an online class. So while waiting, Mathieu goes to see his daughter in another room. Sarah is living in a hermetically sealed capsule that filters her air because she has a total allergy autoimmune syndrome. He gives her the box he's brought as a gift. Sarah opens it and finds natural scents from Canada. And when she does, she finds an SD card that she quickly moves to put in her virtual reality set. Anna has just finished her online class. Mathieu comes to talk to her. He went to Canada because a new treatment has been discovered and they have room for Sarah. Anna is skeptical since she never heard of it from their doctor. Mathieu explains it's new and it hasn't been published yet. They just need to move to Canada, which Anna doesn't like. She thinks Mathieu is complicating things. They've already been lucky enough to get Sarah out of the hospital, and she has a life. But Mathieu doesn't think that's a life. Meanwhile, Sarah is having a video call with Charlotte and Sarah's crush No that have the same condition as here. While Sarah continues to chat with her friends, there is an earthquake hits Paris as well. The power suddenly goes out and Sarah's capsule changes to battery mode. She calls her dad, who is hurrying to get dressed. Mathieu tells her he'll be over soon. When he makes out, he hears alarms and sees people running on the streets. He walks down the street, and after noticing a flock of birds desperately flying away, he finally finds the problem. There is a thick mist coming out of the ground and killing anyone that breathes it. It is expanding and taking over the city, so Mathieu immediately starts running back to his family. Once inside, he finds Anna by the window, so he quickly drags her away, telling her not to breathe the mist. To Sarah, he says that they'll have to leave her there but promises they'll come back for her soon. Mathieu and Anna rush upstairs until they make it to the highest apartment where an elderly couple, Lucien and Colette, live. Lucien lets them in and Mathieu runs to the window to check on the fog. It has stopped at roof level. Afterward, both couples go out to the balcony to look at the city, which is now completely covered by the mist, leaving only the rooftops visible. Mathieu and Anna wonder if the fog is toxic and where it came from, and they see 2 helicopters fly by. In the capsule, Sarah watches the fog get thicker around her. Back in the apartment, Lucien and Colette are checking their food. Mathieu finds some binoculars which he hangs on his shoulder as he goes out to the balcony and climbs the wall to reach the rooftop. There he uses the binoculars to look farther at the city. The mist truly is everywhere. He returns to the balcony to find Lucien trying to use his phone, but there is still no signal. He tries to contact his son, lives 2 blocks from there on a low floor. When they all go back inside, Anna asks Mathieu for an update, but he hasn't seen any rescue teams. Anna is worried about the capsule battery life. Later, Mathieu goes out to the hallway to check the fog. He puts his hand in it and nothing happens. He sniffs his fingers after, but there's no smell. Mathieu wants to go check on Sarah. Anna points out he wouldn't be able to hold his breath for so long. Mathieu says Mr. Belkacem and his oxygen tank. He could hold his breath long enough to get the tank because he is only living 1 floor under it. Mathieu gets a hammer, flashlight and some tape. He opens the window and climbs out, taking a deep breath before entering the fog. When he makes it to Mr. Belkacem's, he enters it after breaking the window with the hammer and starts looking around with the flashlight. First, he finds Mr. Belkacem's body on the floor, and his search thankfully comes to end quickly when he finds the oxygen tank a moment later. He puts the mask on and covers the holes with the tape, and when hears his wife calling out, he peeks out the window to tell her he's fine, while grabbing a bag to put the tank in and carry it on his back. He hears some noises coming from another room. When he opens it, a puppy runs out. He leaves the apartment and goes to see Sarah, who is scared. Mathieu leaves her food, a flashlight and some batteries for the walkie-talkie before changing the battery of the capsule. When he's done, he tells Sarah rescue will come soon, but she still must make the food last. He leaves after promising he'll return soon. Instead of going up, he decides to go outside, where he finds bodies everywhere on the streets. He's in the middle of taking the batteries from various cars when he hears a whistle and goes to check where it comes from. He's surprised to find some soldiers leading a group of survivors. The soldier tells him they're taking the people to Montmartre, which is a hill, so the fog hasn't reached it. He also says they don't know where it comes from or how far it reaches either. After giving Mathieu one of his masks, the soldier tries to take him with him, but Mathieu turns down the offer. Explaining his family situation and asking for 1 extra mask, the soldier gives it to him before leaving. In the meantime, Sarah and Anna chat through the walkie-talkies. Sarah is worried about her dad. Anna tells her to do her exercises and starts guiding her through them when Mathieu arrives. As the elders come closer, he tells everyone about what he found and informs them they'll have to spend the night there. He also asks Anna if she wants to go see Sarah, but she's against the idea. She'd rather save the oxygen for an emergency. Later at night, Mathieu goes out to the hallway once again to check on the fog and notices it's raising. He makes a mark on the wall with the time to keep track of it. He goes back inside as the elders are leaving for bed, and after Anna asks, he tells her about the mist going up. They realize services aren't coming back soon, and it'll only get worse from now on. Mathieu goes to sleep, but Anna can't, so she decides to visit a sleeping Sarah, after all, and takes the chance to change the capsule battery before leaving. In the next morning, Anna working on the radio with tools she's brought from her place, and she manages to fix it. Suddenly they hear an exploding noise from outside. There's fire on Montmartre. The riots have started. Once they return to the apartment, Anna says they should go to stay at Charlotte's because they live on a hill and Sarah could share her friend's capsule. Lucien thinks Sarah shouldn't leave her capsule, but Mathieu explains there are special suits they can use to move her, but they're in a lab in the middle of Paris. Mathieu decides to go with Anna to protect her. They stop by Sarah's first to tell her of their plan, and that they left the walkie-talkie with Lucien in case she need anything. Sarah asks them to check on No, who lives nearby. A moment later, Mathieu and Anna are out on the streets, and they quickly reach No's building. They aren't able to make it inside though because an angry dog shows up and starts chasing them. They start running away and after some blocks, accidentally get separated while dodging cars. Anna's calls for his husband distract Mathieu, who ends up falling into the Seine River. Anna accidentally makes a noise. The dog finds her again and resumes the chase. Anna gets on a bus and the dog closely follows her, but its leash gets stuck on a suitcase. Anna takes the chance to escape through a window and runs to the bridge to look at the river to find Mathieu. But he isn't anywhere in sight, so she goes back to the streets. Turns out Mathieu has swum to a set of stairs that allows him to get out of the river. He takes off his wet jacket and puts on a dry one he's taken from a random body. He also notices there's a hazmat suit inside a fallen van. Back to Anna, she's finally reached the lab, and when she's about to enter, she finds Mathieu running toward her. Inside the lab, Mathieu and Anna find more bodies and a small fire in one of the rooms, but they keep going until they find a suitcase with the suit they need. On their way out, they pass by the room on fire again, but this time it explodes, pushing them back against the wall. They survive, but Mathieu is on fire. Anna searches for an extinguisher and puts it off. When he checks on his husband, she realizes he's having trouble breathing, and they soon find the cause. The explosion broke the oxygen tube of his tank. Mathieu takes his mask off and Anna starts sharing her own oxygen with him as they go upstairs to find a room that fog hasn't invaded yet. Once they make it to one, they discover Mathieu has a nasty burn on the side of his body. So while he takes off his jacket and throws some water on it, Anna searches for a first aid kit. She takes it to Mathieu as soon as she finds it and carefully bandages the wound. When it's time to go, they realize the tank doesn't have enough oxygen left for both of them. Mathieu tells Anna to go with it. He'll find a way by his own, like maybe taking the rooftops. At first Anna refuses, but Mathieu reminds her Sarah needs her, and that he trusts her girls to find some oxygen later with the help of the suit. The couple shares a passionate kiss before separating. Anna runs through the streets with the suitcase. Her tank is running out of oxygen, so she has to take the mask off before entering the building. She manages to hold her breath long enough to return to Lucien's place, where she discovers the explosion has damaged the suitcase and its contents. Meanwhile, Mathieu finds some provisions and a rope on one of the rooftops. After giving the rope a tug to test it, he climbs it to reach the roof of a parking lot. In there, he finds more bags with supplies and a trail of blood that takes him to the body of a cop. Then he enters the building and finds a little camp that holds an oxygen tank and a rifle. He takes the tank for himself, and when he's about to leave, a different cop shows up that tells him the fog is rising faster by the hour and asks him to put down the mask. The cop takes out his gun to kill him, but Mathieu puts on the mask and pushes him off the edge of the platform. They fall on top of the car. The officer tries to get off Mathieu to reach his gun, but Mathieu grabs him from behind and keeps him with him long enough for the fog to have its effect on him. Back in the apartment, Sarah and Anna are once again chatting through the walkie-talkies. Sarah asks if there's anything after death, and that she believes things can't just end here. Anna mentions she's a scientist, so she can't believe the fog is divine or magic. It must be a reaction to something. Their talk is interrupted when Anna's phone alerts her that the capsule battery is running out. After a quick look at Mathieu running through the streets, we see Anna getting ready to go change the capsule battery, which is dangerous, but she has no other choice since there are only 10 minutes left. Lucien offers to go himself, since he thinks it's fine if a man his age doesn't make it back. But Anna refuses. After another short talk with Sarah where his daughter confesses her crush, Anna rushes out of the apartment and into the capsule room, where the battery has already died. Sarah notices her mother isn't wearing a mask and worries, but Anna concentrates on changing the battery and getting the capsule running again before leaving. A short moment later Mathieu arrives and Sarah tells him what happened. He wastes no time climbing the stairs only to find his wife couldn't make it. Sarah hears him cry out in agony and calls him on the walkie-talkie as he returns to the apartment. He takes the conversation to the balcony to privately tell her the bad news. Sometime later the adults are passing time in the apartment when another earthquake shakes Paris. Mathieu goes to the balcony and confirms the fog is finally reaching their floor. They can't stay there any longer. He remembers the hazmat suit he saw in a van and intends to go retrieve it to fix Sarah's. He also wants to bring oxygen for Lucien and his wife, but Lucien turns it down. He and his wife had a good life and don't want to continue living without their son, so they'll stay there and let the mist take them. After offering some words of sympathy, he leaves the place and checks on Sarah, who ignores him until he mentions he's leaving. Sarah gets angry because she thinks he'll end up like her mother, but he explains this is the only option and promises he'll come back. Back in the apartment, the elderly couple lays down on the bed, holding hands and reassuring each other that they're happy with the life they've lived together. Then they close their eyes as the mist makes its way into their room. Outside, Mathieu has no trouble finding the van with the suit. After retrieving it, he starts running back, and on the way, he finds a scooter with the keys still on, so he decides to ride it. When he's getting close to his building, however, a boy suddenly appears in front of him, so Mathieu turns abruptly to dodge him and crashes. In the capsule, Sarah is trying to call him on the walkie-talkie to no avail, and she freezes when a mysterious someone enters her room. On the street, Mathieu is slowly regaining consciousness and notices he has quite a wound on his head. He retrieves the suit and the walkie-talkie and limps his way back to the building while trying to get in contact with his daughter. He barely manages to take a couple of steps before he must stop to rest on the floor because the pain is unbearable. But he forces himself to stand up when he sees two shadows approaching him. It's Sarah and No. Sarah runs to him, and for the first time since she was born, Mathieu finally gets to hug his daughter. Sarah explains that No came pick her up because the mist doesn't affect youngsters. Mathieu is so happy that he takes off his mask for a second so he can kiss Sarah's head while hugging her again. He tells her she's finally free. Mathieu wakes up then, showing us some time has passed and things have changed. It's now Mathieu that stays inside the capsule waiting while Sarah is outside taking care of him and getting in touch with the walkie-talkie. Their roles have reversed. The movie ends here. Goodbye and see you again.